Hey, well, good morning, good evening, good night. Welcome to another episode of First Light. It's great being with you. As you can tell, the set has changed because it is my hotel room. I am in the very dark but beautiful Victoria, and so we're having our conference right now, and for our district, and so I am up early here in the hotel room and just getting together with you here. And so I just want to welcome you and encourage you, as always, to say hi in the chat room and just let us know that you're here. And yeah, so we're kind of doing it this way today. And we're going to be continuing our conversation about John. We're going through John. And so it's always good to be with you here today. I'm just seeing some activity. You know what? I never really like how this all sets itself up. And so I'm just wondering if this thing is working. So I'm not seeing anything that's telling me that's working. So I am going to shut this off. I'm going to try this again and see. Oh, well, hold on. Maybe I just had some blip that, well, it is working. Oh, there you go. Okay, good. Liz, it's great seeing you this morning, as well as Chuck C. Thank you. See, sometimes it gives me this little glitch and I get a little worried. So your comment section actually helps me because it lets me know that, yes, we are moving forward with this. And so I want to thank you all. It's whether you come on later or whether you're on with me live, I really appreciate it. I think right now I can just think of maybe two people that really are quite upset that we're doing this. And that's probably the people in this room and the people in that room. Anyways, look at this. We've got Ontario representing there. Buongiorno, Sab and Rosanna. We've got Quebec. We're with Chrissy, and we've got BC happening as well. You know, we need to kind of spread this out. You know, and kind of hit some people in the prairies, and maybe get all the way down to PEI or something like that. But anyways, yes, it is great being with you all today, and as we continue this series. And John, it's been really kind of cool to go through this. And I will admit, I kind of like to slow things down, but I want to have this done in a certain amount of time. So, you know, there are things that kind of just get dropped off sometimes, and I'm like, so I don't know, maybe I'll do some sort of ad lib thing every once in a while on some of the things that didn't quite make the final edit. It's kind of like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and then it's like 82 hours long because they added all the other things that didn't make the cut. So anyways, we'll see. I'm not quite sure it'd be 82 hours, but look at that. We got good morning Brenda and Richard as well. Snoop Doug, it's great having you there. Jerry, we got Linda, and all those who are joining and maybe not saying hi in there as well, and those who are joining us later. We really appreciate it as we're going through this. So I don't want to belabor this any longer. As I said, we got lots to talk about, but let's just take a moment and pray, and then let's jump right in. So let's go. God, I want to thank you. Thank you for this day. Thank you that we could be together regardless of our location. We still can be together, and just like your word transcends time and transcends geography, Lord, I believe that reading your word today and looking at your life, Jesus, just really is an example to us on how we should live. So, Lord, help us today, and we ask this in your name, Jesus. Amen. Amen. I know I said I wouldn't do a cup of the day, and that's fine. Oh, look at that, Matt. Good morning. I don't know if you've been with us at 6:30 in the morning at this time, so this is great having you with us. And Lena, and look at this. We got Chris. We got a good crew. But maybe I should be in a hotel more often. But this one is a little small for me. It's so small, but I'm going to need more than this today. There's no question in my mind. I'm going to need more than this. Anyway, so we're in John. We hopefully will ring the bell and get into John chapter 2 today. But we are looking at the life of Christ from the perspective of one who followed him and was quite akin to everything that happened. Not only an eyewitness, he was actually like a participant in what was taking place. And so I want to just bring this again, that the reason why John wrote it is for twofold, is that It's kind of our theme. It says here that these are written in John 20. It says, these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah. And that's the first 7 chapters, really, or first like 7, sorry, first 13 chapters. And that you may have life in his name. So really it's in John 20, it's kind of like the thesis for the reason for John writing all this out here, to put our faith in Jesus and to receive fullness in Jesus. So faith and fullness, that's really what we're doing here this morning. We got Dorothy this morning and Ellen. Wow, what a crew. You know, it would be quite a budget boost, but I don't think it's the hotel. I really don't think it's the hotel. Maybe it's because I'm in Victoria, you know, it is the capital, so we'll see. Okay, let's jump into verse 40 of chapter 1, and let's jump in, and then let's keep going. So Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, was one of the 2 who heard John and followed him. He first found his own brother, Simon, and told him, "We have found the Messiah," which is translated the Christ. And he brought Simon to Jesus. When Jesus saw him, he said, "You are Simon, son of John. You will be called Cephas," which is translated Peter. And I just wanted to throw a little shout out to Chuck, who sent me a text after this last week's thing, and just saying how this really reminded him of 1 John chapter 3, verse 2. It says, "Dear friends, we are God's children now, and what we will be has not yet been revealed. We know that when he appears, we will be like him, because we will see him as he is." I love that line. And we will be not sorry, and what we will be has not yet been revealed. And I want to say this, that I've seen, even in the time I've been here, I've seen change in people, and those that I've known longer, I've seen change in you. I pray that I've seen change in me, and others have seen change in me, and yet we're not quite where we're going to be when it's all said and done. Okay, let's keep going here. It says in verse 43 of chapter 1, the next day, Jesus decided to leave Galilee. He found Philip and told him, "Follow me." Now Philip was from Bethsaida, the hometown of Andrew and Peter. Philip found Nathanael and told him, "We have found the one Moses wrote about in the law, and so did the prophets, Jesus, the son of Joseph from Nazareth." Okay, so let me just back up here for a second, or not back up, but let me just kind of pause and say a couple of things about this. First off, that Galilee was like a kind of a very big spread out region, and it had like this long kind of, or a big population. Like it was really diverse, the population, and it was less religious than Judea. Okay, so it was not really the devout people were as many people in Galilee. You know, when we think of like the Fraser Valley kind of being the Bible Belt of BC, maybe even Canada, you'd have other areas that aren't quite as religiously strong, and so Galilee was kind of not seen the same way in the eyes of the Jews. So it was kind of like the armpit of the body, you know, if you think of that, like you know, every part of the body. And so it was kind of like the armpit. Galilee was seen that. And then so Nazareth in Galilee was kind of like the sweat glands, okay, the BO sweat glands of the armpit. I know it's like some of you are going, this is too early for that sort of graphic stuff. But yeah, but it's just to kind of give some perspective here. That it's just like Nazareth was just like, okay. And so this is what backdrops Nathaniel's skepticism and this comment, right? This is where he comes into this thing, because he says, can anything, we're about to get into this, that can anything good come out of Nazareth, right? So can anything good come out of that? So in verse 45 here, though, before we get to that, verse 45, Philip says this. I think this is really cool. He says, we have found... Okay, let me just move this over on this side. I made a change to my platform look so I can see things a little better. So I've had to move some things around here. So it says that we have found, okay, let me flip the page there and actually say the phrase here, that we have found the one Moses wrote about in the law. Okay, the word found, okay, it's the Greek word haruko, okay, which means this, it's like when you find a treasure. Okay, it's when you find something extremely valuable. You read about that in Luke chapter 15, where like the person found the pearl or found the lost coin. Like that finding, it's like, oh my goodness, I finally found it. Okay, we were camping, Carrie and I, recently, and so I lost my wallet. I couldn't find my wallet. I tore everything apart. It was going nuts. We were with some other people, and I said, just go ahead, and I'll just keep looking because it's got to be somewhere. And couldn't find it. And the longer I went, I was just like we're talking an hour and a half. I couldn't find it. I tore everything apart. And then, sure enough, someone said, well, I'm just going to look randomly in this like chair, which happened to have a zipper pocket in it. And I was like, oh my goodness, you found it. Okay, so that's what the word is here. Like when you're coming here to Nathaniel, we found him. It's finally, they've been, this oppression and everything like this. We finally found him. And then Nathaniel comes out with this infamous line, can anything good come out of Nazareth? Okay, so he asked this. Now, this was not Nathaniel's kind of saying. This was actually a common saying around like there. It's can anything good come out of that? Like, and the truth is that, like, I think about some of the communities that I've lived in, and can anything good come out of whatever? Can anything good come out of Chilliwack or Brantford or First Ave? Like, there can be this negative connotation. And I'm not saying that those are common sayings. I'm saying though that people can downplay things. Can anything good come out of that guy? Can anything good come out of that girl? And I think that oftentimes we can stifle the goodness of God because we just come out with this expectation that nothing good is gonna come out of this. So Philip says this. He says, we found him, Jesus from Nazareth. It was saying, how unlikely is this? This is so crazy. We finally found him. I know we called this the shoulder tap. I was going to call it Bob from Kanaka Bar, okay? Because that's really what happened. It was like he came and he said, and people maybe out east may not know where Kanaka Bar is, and people in BC may not even know where Kanaka Bar is either. You'd have to look it up, and some of you probably know where it is, but it's you skip it pretty quick. And so it would be like saying, we found the Prime Minister, the next Prime Minister of Canada. From where's he from? Kanaka Bar. What? Kanaka. That's this idea that Philip and Nathaniel are having this conversation, and it's like, are you kidding me? But then he says this. Philip says this. He says, come and see, Philip answered. Come look for yourself, he said this. Then Jesus saw Nathanael coming toward him and said about him, here truly is an Israelite in whom there is no deceit. Jesus is saying to this person, or saying to Nathanael and saying to whoever was listening at the time, no deceit. The phrase there means someone who has a deep integrity, somebody who has an honesty. It actually suggests, and there are scholars that think this, it actually suggests that this Nathaniel person already had a reputation for being integral, already had a reputation for being honest. It was almost like that, what Jesus called out was something already being said about him. He was already known for this in his character. And then it says in verse 48, how do you know me? Nathanael says, before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you, Jesus answered. So this has this fig tree, when it's mentioned there, when we read fig trees, it has a cultural and a biblical significance. First thing is that fig tree, Jesus uses it later on, it symbolizes this idea of this fruitfulness and this abundance, right? And it says this, I saw you. I saw you, okay? Either he was not there, okay, which means like he could see outside of himself, that God, like the Father revealed Nathanael to him, or he had seen him before, and on his way into the town or whatever, saw him just off the side, and the father revealed who he was, or reputation, and this. But this is the point that catches my eye. He called it out of him. He said, "This is a man who has no deceit. This is a man who is honest. This is a man who has integrity. This is a man who has this ability to do that." And he shoulder tapped him. He called out in him, okay, the what was already inside him. And I got thinking about that, like how often, just hold on a second here. Okay, someone who has a deep integrity, which scholars? Justin, that's a good question. It's stuff that I've read in commentaries as I'm going along. I could go back and find out, but I'm going based on what the scholars are saying about other scholars. So, I can't deep dive into this as much as I want to, but yeah, that's just where that comes from. So you could do some study on that as to where that integrity that scholars come from. You could look it up, maybe put that in the chat room there. So the point I want to get in here with this shoulder tap is that, like, I think it's important for us to be touching and shoulder tapping those around us, calling out the things that we see in others. And I try and do it, and I'm not always successful at it, but I've had people do it to me, and will say things to me too. I just want to encourage you with that we should be doing that. When you see the goodness, and you know what, I'm going to do it right now. Right before I got on, I saw, I thank God for this platform that we have, this church online thing, and there was this thing that popped up, and it was Gwen Gallus, and she had commented just thanking everybody who had done some baking for the celebration of life last weekend. And I was like, that was so good. That was so good to take that time and just kind of thank those who had, contributed towards remembering Rick's life. And I just was like, that. So that there is a shoulder tap. It's calling that out in there and saying, like, good job, Gwen. I see that in you. So we should be doing that. Like, it's amazing, I think, what would happen if we stopped coming from can anything good come out of Nazareth, and then like spin the tables like Jesus does right away and says, oh, no, you're good, you are good. Okay, anyways, let's keep going because then I won't finish. Verse 49 says, Rabbi. Boom, immediately he says, Rabbi. Nathanael replied, you are the Son of God. You are, catch this, I'm going to do it this way. You are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. Okay, so two things I want to talk about that, and I'll come back to that part. First thing is that he called him Rabbi. Okay, so in the Jewish culture, discipleship was how people learned. I wish we still did it. I wish we still did discipleship properly. Okay, that the idea of mentorship, pouring into people. This is one platform that we do for that, but we have to get away from just like the classroom setting idea and immerse ourselves in the lives of those around us. Anyways, so back then you didn't choose a school. It's not like, if you live in this district, okay, yes, yay, Chuck Block can be my principal. No, that's not how it goes. The idea here is that the school would choose you. Okay, yeah, Snoop Dogg, I agree with you, okay? And you are an encourager, okay? You are an incredible encourager. See, that's exactly what it is. Okay, so this the school would choose the actual learners. It was like Harvard, everyone applies to go to Harvard, and then Harvard decides who's going to come to Harvard, right? So they were chosen by the rabbi, okay? And then they were called to learn and to live like the rabbi. That's kind of how it happened here. But the thing that's interesting here to note is that Nathanael says that you are the Son of God and the King of Israel, okay? That was not the Jewish belief, okay? That was not this belief there. They thought that the Messiah was just going to be like a judge, like, Gideon or Samson. Well, hopefully not Samson, without the hair. But like this idea that it's someone who's going to deliver them, because that's the cycle they'd seen themselves get out of. And so now to say that he was the Son of God, whoa! Like, so obviously Nathanael, whatever happened, that interaction, Nathanael saw right into what's going on and called him for who he really was. Okay, verse 50 says this. Jesus responded to him, do you believe because I told you? Because I told you I saw you under the fig tree? You will see greater things than this. Again, fig tree, fruit, abundance. And he says, see greater things. And I got thinking about that. Like, God, do I properly set up my faith limit on what you can do? Do I properly set that up? I wonder what your faith limit is as to what you believe God can do. I'll tell you this. I've seen God do great things, but God can do even greater. So think of the greatest thing that God's done in your life. And God can do greater than that. Are you believing for that? Okay, verse 51 says this. Then he said, truly I tell you, you will see heaven opened and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man. Okay, let's keep going. Ding. Chapter 2, friends. We finally get there. Okay, chapter 2. It says, on the third day, a wedding took place in Cana of Galilee. Jesus' mother was there. Okay, so hold on for 3 verses. I'm going to come back to this, okay? But this is an important thing. He says Jesus' mother was there. Okay, mom was invited to the party, which is awkward when you're a teenager. But anyways, Jesus is over 30. So he says, on the third day, a wedding took place in Cana of Galilee. Jesus' mother was there. And Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding as well. So all I'm going to say to set this up, it's a Jewish custom. Weddings, they lasted like about a week. They went quite a long time, okay? So you had to prepare for it, as well as you just knew that you were going to be hosting people for quite a while when it came to a wedding. Okay, so verse 3 says this. When the wine ran out, Jesus' mother told Jesus, they don't have any wine. Okay, so let's get back into this culture corner. I should also have some sort of soundbite. Culture corner, or I don't know. We'll figure something out. But this culture corner thing, okay? The wine ran out. That was a bad thing. Okay, it's like going to a stand-up comedy and the guy runs out of jokes about halfway through his set, and it's like, right? So the wine ran out, okay? And it wasn't so much about the fact that the wine ran out. That's not what I really want to get at here. It's this, but it was bad planning. Whoever was in charge did not make sure that the wine lasted for all of the wedding. And so it was bad planning, whether they just didn't get enough wine, whether they didn't think as many people were going to show up, whether they just had a big rush to the wine jars. I'm not really sure how you would say that. But what is this miracle is actually not so much about turning water into wine as much as Jesus is saving someone's neck. Jesus is stepping in to save someone's neck because whoever was in charge was in a lot of trouble for that, because they were responsible to monitor it. They were responsible to care for it. We just think about this cool thing. It was just like, oh, he turned the water into wine. And sometimes you go by Costco and see all that wine or all the water in the bottles and just thinking, what would Jesus do here? Okay, it wasn't turning into the wine. He was stepping in to help someone in a time of need. Okay, so Jesus is, and I tell you this is what I believe God shows us about this, is that Jesus steps in when we blow it. Jesus steps into situations when we blow it. It's not even just that circumstances around us, like, I can't believe all this happened. No, you made it happen. Okay, you blew it. But Jesus steps in, and I'm telling you, that's most of my life. Maybe you want to put that in the comment section as well. No, not that it's most of my life. Maybe you want to put in the comment section, Jesus has stepped in when I've blown it. Okay, so anyways, let's get going. Verse 4 says this. It says, what has this concern of yours to do with me, woman? Okay, Jesus asked, my hour has not yet come. Okay, let me just tell you now. I don't know if mom is on there now. Maybe mom will watch it later, but that would be the last words I would ever say. There was the fear of God was in my dad. He didn't say too much when it came to discipline because I was such a beautiful child. But I remember he'd always say this, don't speak to your mother that way. And that was when I was being just not that, okay? He was just, what concern of yours, or what has this concern of yours to do with me, mother, or me, a woman? And so here's the thing. Did he just diss his mom? Okay, and I'm not going to we don't have the time to get all in this, and I'm sure there's books and all sorts of things about cultural backgrounds and scholars that do those things. Well, here's one thing. Jesus never sinned, so it wasn't sin, whatever happened. Okay, so he refers to his mother as woman. Okay, and again, I'm not recommending you do this ever to anyone, but it speaks to something that we're going to find later on in next chapter, in John chapter 3, where John the Baptist says, I must decrease so that you can increase. Okay? My role needs to step back so that Jesus, you can step into your role. Jesus had shifted at this baptism. Remember, the baptism had just taken place from an earthly responsibility to a heavenly responsibility. And so this was a way that John was just depicting the fact that even though Jesus was going to do something for his mother, he wasn't doing it to just help out mom. Okay? It was to actually address the need. And so as the anointed Messiah, even Jesus, it wasn't about him anymore. Okay? It was about the will of the Father. Okay? Because he even says, my hour has not yet come. And I'd say this before, I want to say it again. Jesus, or God's will, always has a what and a when. Jesus, and put that in the chat room if you want, that God's will always has a what and a when. And here's the catch, is that it's not always the same place, right? Sometimes we know what, but we don't know when. Sometimes we know when, but we don't know what. But God's will has both of them. Okay, let's keep going there because, okay, we got to get this done. And verse 5 says this, do whatever he tells you. His mother told his servants, okay? I am telling you, that is a big line. You don't think of it. That is a huge line because this is what they say Jesus' first miracle, okay? I want to suggest it was Jesus' first public miracle. For whatever reason, mom knew that Jesus would step up. So remember there in Luke chapter 2, verse 39, which we didn't study ourselves, but I mean, if you've read it, where it says that when the wise men came to Jesus and they presented these gifts, it says that Mary pondered these things in her heart. Okay? So how Mary views Jesus is going to be a key part of Jesus' first sign. Okay? Because Mary already had a history of knowing what Jesus was capable of doing. Okay, let's keep going. Verse 6 says this. Now 6 stone water jars had been set there for Jewish purification. Each contained 20 or 30 gallons. Do the math, between 500 and 700 liters of water. Okay? So but wine, I checked it out, that wine jars, okay, were only 7 gallons. So these were about 3 to 4 times larger than just the wine jars. Okay, so just wait for the significance of this. Okay, we're going to keep going with this. Okay, and then it says this: fill the jars with water, Jesus told them. So they filled them to the brim. Okay, remember with Elijah with the jars there, and so you receive whatever room you make. Okay, so he said, grab all the jars you can, and as soon as the jars were full, that's when the oil stopped. Okay, let's keep going. Verse 8 says this: then he said to them, now draw some out and take it to the head waiter. Oh, yes, I know who that guy is. That's the guy that blew it. Okay, so what does Jesus say? He says, take it to that guy first. Oh, think about it. I rush too much. I rush. I wish I didn't have to rush. Think about it. Huh. Jesus goes to the person who blew it to say, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Before anybody else finds out about the miracle, he goes and steps into this thing and says, it's going to be okay. All right. Okay. And they did. When the head waiter tasted the water, after it had become wine, he did not know where it came from. Though the servants who had drawn the water knew. He called the groom and told him, everyone sets out the fine wine first. Then, after people are drunk, the inferior. But you have kept the fine wine until now. He's like, where was I? You kept it until now. Okay, so Jesus' sign wasn't about turning water into wine. Jesus' first sign was about restoring the reputation and the relationship of the steward who blew it. The first sign was the sign of propping him up with shoulder taps. You can do it. It's okay. I'm going to help you out here. That's the first sign. It wasn't about water, wine. It was about a person. It was about giving dignity back to somebody here. And so what did he do? He gave him like 500, 700 liters of wine. I had to do the math on that. It's like 700 to 1,000 bottles in our way of wine, okay, of wine here, and remember this like town, where Cana has like the population of like Carameus. It's like a bunch of fruit stands. Like it's not that big of a community, and yet all of this takes place in that size of a place. Okay, verse 11 says this: Jesus did this. The first of his signs, John says, the first of his signs, okay, in Cana of Galilee, he revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. He revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him, okay? So these signs, okay, these miracles are meant to inspire faith. Remember, like that you would have faith, that you may believe. Okay, so that's what this whole first part of John is these stories, these accounts that talk about what Jesus did so that they may believe. Literally, the word for sign, okay, it's like sign meaning like signal, like a landmark or a post, or it's a distinguishing mark. Okay, it's an indication. It would be like my friends Craig and Kirk, thank you, Craig and Kirk Thomas, who lived on my street. They were identical twins, and people couldn't tell them apart, but I could. Why? Because I spent so much time with them. And so I could see the little identifying marks that would make them different from one another. And so parents can do the same thing with their kids and their twins. And so here's what he's saying. These are these distinguishing marks that are going to differentiate them. And it says, he revealed his glory. The wine pointed to Jesus. I'm here to tell you, the miracles that God does in our lives are not the final stop. The miracles should always simply be a distinguishing mark, a landmark, something, a sign that points us to the path of Jesus. And then verse 12 says this: after this, he went down to Capernaum together with his mother, his brothers, and his disciples, and they stayed there only a few days. And my final note on this is that even in his revealed calling, these people see what happens. What does he do? He goes back with his family, goes back to his community. Community was still always the center of his ministry. Anyways, friends, I trust that this has been a good morning for you to launch you off. I believe in you. I'm so thankful we can do this together. And we will continue this on next week. And I'll be back for the weekend, and looking forward to being with you guys on Sunday. For those of you who will be with us on Sunday. And then we keep moving along, watching and more signs about Jesus in the weeks to come. God bless you guys. Bye.